And just look to see if there's anything else you need to do or would like to do right now. Okay. So would you say that we've come to a natural stopping place? Would you be able to congratulate yourself on what you've achieved today?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, sounds good. So reward yourself in whatever way is appropriate to you. And would you like to find a way of coming back into the room that's really right for you and that puts a new spring in your step? Turns you almost into a different person, but certainly a much lighter person. Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Hello, thank you. Just relax for a while. Worth sitting in that comfy chair for?
What am I sitting in?
Worth sitting in that comfy chair.
Very much so.
Oh.
Yeah. I'd recommend it to anybody.
We shifted a couple of lorry loads of stuff today then. Well done.
Thank you. And thanks everybody. See you.
Oh, you're so good. Thanks. Well, see, just stay in the chair for a second. Don't be too active at this time of night.
You told me to put a spring in my step.
Anything else you want to say to these guys?
I just want to say thanks to everybody for their support, because I could really feel it, and for letting me have this slot because I won't be here tomorrow. And definitely I would recommend this chair if everybody could sit on it, but just move your life forward. Just face the fear and go with it anyway, because fear can be your greatest counsellor, and there's a wonderful life when you unload it instead of holding on to it. So that would be kind of all I have to say.
Great, well done. Thank you very much for sitting there, being brave enough to do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I go down now?
Of course. You don't have to ask my permission. Just mind out, because we want to get you to the graduation. We don't want you to break your neck there.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, let's hope that the graduation will be a different experience for you. Okay. Obviously, I didn't ask anything like the number of questions that I was intending, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. The other thing that I did, to try and help you out, is I wrote down here, did you follow this? Even though you might not have been able to see it. That I was trying to, I was writing like a spider because I couldn't reach the board. I left out fear because, of course, that came in at the end, and I think it came in earlier on because we had freezing, which of course is a traumatic manifestation. But we had all sorts of things. We had a kind of little bit of what I call a flag. We had some guilt here. I feel guilty for something. So when I hear guilt, I want to have something that would alleviate that guilt.
You have a world-class trainer here. Consider yourselves very fortunate. A lot of what I'm saying right now is unplanned, is coming from the heart. We have some time left. This is totally spontaneous, and somehow these are comments that just seem to be flowing from within to kind of wrap things up. But I need to make one more invitation for questions or comments about what was covered this weekend. Well, there's somebody in this room that has a question, and you can ask me after the workshop, unless it comes into your mind before I finish. I don't know how much you know about my past. I sold insurance for a decade in the 1970s and went into management for a major insurance company. And as a stressed out sales manager, I started getting high blood pressure. And one of my clients, who was a physician, said, if you don't start dealing with your stress, you may see me for a different reason unless you bypass me on your way to the morgue. Got my attention. That really got my attention. So I went to a psychotherapist who also did hypnosis, and hypnotherapists were very difficult to find in the late 70s. And she taught me the peaceful place meditation that I had been teaching clients for years. And I started practicing self-hypnosis for stress management. I never could learn it from books. And I mentioned earlier in this workshop that I didn't like the way self-hypnosis books are written, because they basically have this idea, this is what you do, and you do it. Well, she taught me a technique that worked for getting into self-hypnosis and gave me post-hypnotic suggestion to help make it so. And the unexpected fringe benefit was within 30 days, my blood pressure was normal. I wasn't put on medication that time around, because at that time it was something like 145 over 90. And my doctor said that I was very close to needing medication and probably would within 6 months to a year. And it went down to 120 over 78. And then along about 1980, my marriage busted up, and for reasons I won't go into, I spent 6 months in counseling picking up 1,000 pieces of shattered self-esteem, and found out that 3 or 4 sessions of hypnotherapy helped me profoundly much more than 6 months of counseling. And that made a difference in my life. So then I went to a Dick Sutphin seminar and sat in an 8-hour seminar of a whole series of past life regressions and decided I want to learn this. And of course, my initial interest was in a modality, past life regressions. But I didn't know then what I know now, that you don't try to find everyone's problem by going into a past life. But nonetheless, I was fortunate enough to be steered to the late, great Charles Stevitz. So in my initial training, I learned the client-centered approach. He didn't call it client-centered hypnosis. That name came from another hypnotherapist several years ago, just before the writing of the book, The Art of Hypnotherapy. But nonetheless, whether you call it diversified client-centered hypnosis or whether you call it something else, it's basically the same thing. And I'm more into doing it than I am into naming it. Onward through my years, I started in '83 in hypnotherapy after studying with Charles Stevitz, had a back injury, and had a fractured disc. The doctors told me that I would be a chronic pain patient, possibly even have to be in a wheelchair, and that I would have to deal with back pain for the rest of my life. Well, again, through hypnotherapy and self-hypnosis, I'm 90% pain-free. And it's wonderful to be able to stand up here and stand and walk and feel no pain. If I lift too much, my back hurts, and then I pay the price. So that's when the other 10% comes into play. Because you see, with a missing disc, I have to be careful not to cause further injury. And pain is a warning something's wrong with the body. That's why you don't take it upon yourselves to treat somebody for pain unless he or she has had the physical cause diagnosed first. So I've gone through a lot of personal stresses that I won't go into, other than to say there were times when I regretted deciding to do workshops on stress management, because it's as though a higher power said, okay, you want to teach stress management? Here, I'll give you lots of stress to deal with. So sometimes walking the talk isn't much fun. But I tell you what, when you come through the other side, it really gives you great confidence and total conviction in the value of what we teach. And I went through a totally unexpected situation about mid-1996 that resulted in my blood pressure going back up again. This time the doctor put me on medication and suddenly had me in the hospital having a bunch of stress tests and advanced tests on my heart. And I was on the blood pressure medication that very same day, because this time it turned out my blood pressure was 165 or 160 something over 106. And he wasn't so worried about the 160 part, but he was worried about the 106 on the bottom. And when I found out the side effects of the high blood pressure medication, I decided, oh no, I don't choose this reality. So I went to another hypnotherapist and had hypnotherapy to get at the core cause of my stress, which wasn't in childhood. This was something that had happened in my more recent past, and I dealt with that through Gestalt therapy and through parts therapy to resolve the inner conflict. And then I once again stepped up my self-hypnosis with my peaceful place trigger. That peaceful place, that's such a valuable, a very simple technique, but so valuable to anchor in a peaceful place trigger so that you can trigger your instant inner peace as a centering technique. Well, with the combination of my peaceful place trigger and self-hypnosis to imagine my blood pressure being normal, it took me about 2.5 months to wean myself off of the medication. I stayed on the medication at full dosage for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then on a weekly basis I cut my medication dosage in half instead of stopping it suddenly until I got off of it altogether. And in the summer of 1998, August or September, I'm not sure which month, I went into my doctor for an exam, and he had to take my blood pressure twice because he didn't believe the first reading when I told him that I hadn't taken any medication since November of 1997. And he said, this is a medical impossibility. So, once again, an opportunity to walk my talk and realize the benefits